Hi, everyone. Welcome to the District of Columbia Public Charter School Board meeting for April 29th. My name is Saba Beretta. I'm Vice Chair of the board. Our Chair, Lea Crusey, is unable to be here tonight. Joining me tonight are my fellow board members, Steve Bumbaugh, Ricardo Ganjum, Lea Crusey, Jim Sandman, and Naomi Shelton. Tonight's meeting is a continuation of last week's meeting, which ended because of an unfortunate disruption. We've since taken steps to increase security measures to prevent breaches like that from reoccurring. There will be no video for tonight's meeting and we'll only be using audio. As we move through each agenda item, Briani, our moderator for this evening, will unmute DC PCSB staff or individuals speaking on behalf of the school. Again, this meeting is a continuation of last week's meeting, which began with public comment. All public comment can be found in tonight's board meeting materials on DC PCSB's website. We will now begin with the public hearing. Can we unmute Hannah?
Hi, everyone. Saba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Great. Hello, my name is Hannah Cousino, manager on the Equity Audits and Support team. This is a continuation of the public hearing on the proposed facility location of Capitol Village Public Charter School. The school received conditional approval to operate on May 20th, 2019, and one of the conditions for full charter approval is securing a facility. Capitol Village Public Charter School plans to locate its facility at 705 Edgewood Street Northeast in Ward 5. This facility formerly housed City Arts and Prep Public Charter School. Pending its full charter approval, Capitol Village Public Charter School will begin operation in school year 2020-21, seeking to enroll 90 students in grades 5 and 6. By school year 2022-23, it will reach maturity with plans to serve a total of 180 students in grades 5 through 8. Representatives from the school are present to answer any remaining questions you may have.
Hello. Board members, if you have any questions, we'll unmute you. And perhaps we could just have Capitol Village reintroduce themselves.
Yes. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Monica.
Yes.
Hello again. Thank you guys for being here to hear us and about our progress so far. I'm here, Monica Green, as the Executive Director of Capitol Village, and our Director of Operations is also here, Keina Hodge, as well, to share any remaining questions that you have.
Hi, good evening. How's everybody doing?
Doing well. Fine. Yeah, very well.
So far, so good.
Did the school have another statement or anything they wanted to offer?
Sure. Would you like me to sort of restate the statement that I made in the beginning of last meeting?
Sure.
And if board members, if you can just introduce yourselves when you're speaking, that would be great.
Sure. Sorry, that was Naomi Shelton.
Okay, great, thanks. So we are excited to share our progress this year towards launch. We have several important developments thus far, one of which has been the fact that we do have a permanent facility. Through the support of our partners, have been able to secure a long-term lease, meaning that we'll be able to focus on school culture and not have to worry about moving in the first few years. Another important development that we have so far has been that we are almost fully staffed. We're making offers this week. If all goes well, this week we will be fully staffed. And so that means that we can focus on the continual development of our staff and working towards other milestones as well. We have had our leadership team on board for a couple months now, and our Director of Curriculum and Instruction has been working on curriculum, and our Director of Student Supports has been working on our planning around how to support the needs of our diverse student population that is enrolling. We as a team, we're meeting tomorrow to sort of kick off our planning, our strategic planning around COVID-19, in which we sort of also have been engaging with other consultants around how we can create a seamless transition between on-campus and off-campus learning, just knowing about some of the uncertainties that we have next year due to COVID-19. So just all in all, our planning year has been, very busy. It's been a flurry of activity, in some ways challenging, but we have a strong team and a strong board that has been in support of the school for a while now, and we are very proud of the progress that we've made.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just to continue with the questions that I posed last week, you were giving us updates on your enrollment and your numbers. Are there any changes from any of that from last week? And this is Naomi Shelton.
Hi, Naomi. I would just like to go back and sort of reiterate how we view enrollment as a long-term effort that will happen all the way to the fall, even now more so due to COVID-19. Keina will talk about the updates as far as our enrollment, and I'll talk more about our plans so far.
Hi. So just to kind of piggyback on what Monica said, we, are very confident that we're going to hit our enrollment target. And we have had, as I mentioned from the last meeting, we've had 90 total applications. We actually got some new ones in. We've had 40 match families, which is 50%, almost 50% of our enrollment target. And additionally, we've had 23 families who have started or completed their enrollment paperwork process. So we've had over 50% of our matches start and complete the enrollment process in spite of all that's going on. And we've been able to do that through honestly just authentically engaging with families, talking with them, finding out what their concerns are with all that's happening right now. And we have also made sure that our enrollment process is 100% online. And so families don't even need a Chromebook or anything. They can actually do all of our paperwork through their phone through a couple of different applications that we're using. And so, as Monica mentioned, we definitely are viewing this as a marathon and not a sprint, and that we have seen through multiple touch points with families is that it's a process, especially considering the environment that we're in now, and families have a lot of, questions and desires for their students, and we have been able to be responsive to those questions and those concerns and those desires, and we've been able to really have multiple touch points with families, and we're seeing a steady increase in our enrollment numbers.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just weigh in on a little bit more of that. So just sort of reiterating what Keina said around where we are in this process, statistically, according to My School DC, where we know that over 60% of enrollees on the first day of school have come from post-lotto applications. And so we're a little past that, where other schools may have been during this time of year. And as Keina said, it's really about our rich engagement efforts. Now, because we are sort of, all homebound, we're doing a lot of virtual events. We just did one yesterday. We just kicked off a sort of, we call it Boss Up Entrepreneurship Workshop Series. So we had over 20 students to register for that series, and yesterday we taught them about how to identify your problem, and then they will be able to take that problem into a business plan, into a pitch. So just continuing to, regularly engage parents and families, and also become a resource for families. We're starting workshops for parents, and we also next week will be offering tutoring hours where families can sort of sign up with our staff and our partners for 30-minute slots of tutoring and homework help. And also parents can sign up with our special education experts if they have issues around how to work with their students with special needs at home. So just continuing with our trend of really being a community school.
And then what contingencies have you all come up with in case you don't reach your enrollment target?
Right, that's a good question. So if we don't meet our enrollment target, we have several contingency budgets on different levels. We can enroll like 73 students with our same core program by making a few cuts with some of our staffing. Like we have an external relations associate that we could cut, and then we, so very small core program still being intact changes. And then if we get down to 55 students, we make a little bit more sacrifices, but we're still able to run the program and still have the recommended amount of cash on hand for financial stability. So, I mean, even if we can only enroll 15 more students, we would still be able to run our program.
And Monica, if you could also speak to like our partnership with Urban Teachers and
Yeah, thank you, Keina. So just in general, like just trying to make sure that we are in a strong position, we were really thoughtful in planning our lease, well, not planning our lease negotiations, but in the lease negotiations so that we built in some contingency there as well. So I mentioned last meeting that we negotiated a 50% rent abatement in year one, meaning that we're only paying half of the rent in year one and then 80% of the rent in year two. Additionally, all of our improvement budget is coming from our $175,000 tenant improvement allowance. So that is, we currently are in the process of doing those renovations, and that's well under what is, what we have been quoted is under that $175,000. So we won't have to come out of our pocket for any of the improvements needed to the space. What Keina mentioned was that we have finalized an agreement with Urban Teacher Center, who will use our space in the evening. And that contract is a revenue stream of $108,000. And then just in case we still need more risk mitigation, we have been approved for a $250,000 OSSI credit guarantee. And, in case we need to, get a loan out for some, unforeseen circumstances. So just again, with the smart budgeting decisions, has also been a part of our planning so that we are not, sort of strapped for cash even if we do not meet our target enrollment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
If not, I have another question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Steve Bumbaugh. It took me a while to figure out how to get in. Can folks hear me?
yeah.
Hi. I have a question, just a sort of a general question. How have your plans for opening the school next year changed given the sort of strangeness of the situation we find ourselves in, or have they changed at all?
Yes, hi Steve. We are, that is something that is kind of, for us, an exciting question, while being a nerve-wracking one at the same time. We have had several meetings this week and one coming up where basically our question is, how can we plan for a seamless transition between on-campus and off-campus instruction? So we know that there's a possibility that there might be a late start in the year as far as students actually being on campus. And we also know that there's a possibility that there may be a period in the middle of the year where we'll have to come back off campus. And so really what we've been thinking about is, first, how do we manage our assets as far as our curriculum resources and like our tools for instruction, so that students, when they're on campus, are using like learning management systems that allow them to sort of not have to make too much of a shift when they leave, when they're not on campus. So an example of that is that our math curriculum is illustrative math, and illustrative math is something that you can plug into either LearnZillion as a learning management system, or Canvas, or Google Classroom. So if students are getting their work, for example, they're doing their work online through a learning management system while on campus, it's not too much of a shift for them to do the same thing off campus. But then additionally, some other things that we're thinking about is, what are the sort of instructional models that are better, so that it's also help with the shift back and forth. So using more things like flipped classroom models or small group instruction can also be done offline. And then finally, we're taking the lead, well, not taking the lead, but taking the example of other schools that are doing a really good job of thinking about culture and community building, even online. So culture being our #1 priority, students' wellness and student safety. How are other schools, doing community circles and check-ins and mentoring, even though they're right now out of school? We are using their example in order to decide how we're going to make that be a part of our model as well. So a little bit of a silver lining being that we're able to watch our other mentor schools and take their lessons and use them as our own, and then also work with other consultants to help with that process as well.
And just to add one more quick note to that, the other thought process that we have as well in our planning around COVID is also that if we're able to open as expected in terms of being on site, we also are, from an operations standpoint, looking at different safety measures and precautions that might need to happen if social distancing is still being required and things of that nature. And so we're, as Monica mentioned, we have an additional leadership team meeting tomorrow where we're going to be going through our strategy and kind of finalizing and working through our plans on a lot of things. So I'm thinking about all things safety and trying to make sure that we have enough supplies on hand, whether that's masks, whether that's hand sanitizers, Clorox wipes, sanitizer packs, and so forth, so the students are safe on campus.
So one more question. The LMS systems that you're looking at and the distance learning platforms that you're looking at, do you know if they're mobile friendly? And I'm asking because the students you're serving, or their families are more likely to have mobile devices and tablets and laptops and that sort of thing. So that's why I ask.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yes, all of the systems that we're using are mobile friendly. That was one of the sort of criteria that we sort of use when thinking about the ones that, like Canvas, that we are currently thinking about. But then also, in addition, we have already looked at our budget and said, that we're going to have to make provisions to be able to give students Chromebooks if they need to have Chromebooks. And so part of our work over the last few weeks has been like, how many Chromebooks do we need? And then how many Chromebooks do we need to have extra on hand in case, something gets broken or doesn't return. So just another part of our sort of operational lens is being able to provide families Chromebooks, hotspots, those kind of tools as necessary for them to be able to use, as many other schools have been doing this year as well.
Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Steve.
And this is Naomi. Did someone else have a question?
Yep, go ahead.
This is Naomi. Wanted to know if you've had any concerns or questions in your community outreach. What has been the feedback that you've gotten from different stakeholders?
Thanks, Naomi. Overwhelmingly, our feedback has been very positive. We have a host of community organizations that have partnered with us already to sort of be a part of our school. So a few examples of that is Washington Improv Theater, who will come in and once a week with a teaching artist to help our students learn through improv. And another example of that is Washington Debate League, which will also come through and provide our students with debate coaches. But locally as well, we have a letter of support from our local ANC, also the Edgewood Civic Association, and the neighboring school, DC Prep, because we have been actively working on that, on our sort of cultivation of the neighborhood. Keina will talk a little bit more about some of the concerns the neighborhood has brought and how we have been working through those concerns, because as a community school, our number one sort of focus is being good neighbors, because we want to collaborate with the neighborhood as much as possible. Keina?
Mm-hmm. So the main two things that have come up as far as like questions were, the first was in regards to our space, considering we're only taking over the top level. There were questions about potential tenants on the lower level. And so what we have already done in our process is we've already walked through our space with the general contractor to look at how we can lock off our space. Additionally, we've had our security vendor come and look at additional cameras as well as key fob access in the building to make sure that everything is secure. The benefit of that space, and not sure if everybody has been to that building before, but it really is pretty separate from the lower level, because there's a space to come up the ramp, and then our entrance is completely separate. The other question that came up, and the main question that came up in conversations with community members, was in regards to traffic. And so in response to traffic, two things that we were able to do is, first, we met with DC Prep and their director of operations, and we sat down and heard from them about, first of all, what their arrival and dismissal times were. They were also able to let us know about some of the things that they have been able to do to help mitigate some traffic, but also were very transparent about, continuing pain points that have still been around. I also then did my own physical observations of looking at their arrival and dismissal prior to the schools being shut down, and was able to discern what the peak periods were and what some of the non-peak times were, because our goal was to make sure that we could kind of stagger our start and end times around there so that we weren't adding into an influx of traffic at the same amount of time. And then secondly, as Monica mentioned, we actually went to the Edgewood Civic Association's February board meeting and had the chance to present information about our school. And we heard from community members there about some of their traffic concerns, some of which are not really related to the school. Some of them are related to wanting additional stop signs in the community and things of that nature. But we were able to kind of be able to respond to that by letting them know that we were creating a very strategic arrival and dismissal plan, again, working with DC Prep to understand what their scheduling is. Also, we are looking at different tools that would help to kind of make the process more efficient for families that are coming via car. And additionally, in our enrollment process, we've already heard from, I would say, at least 65% of our families have already requested aftercare. And so we know that that will also help to offset any traffic in the neighborhood. But as Monica stated, for us, being a part of this community is not just hearing about concerns and being able to respond to them. It's also about how can we make sure that we are good neighbors? How can we make sure that we're partnering? And so for us, we want to continue, our plan is to continue having monthly meetings with DC Prep so that we can make sure that, say, our event schedules align and our fire drill schedules don't overlap. And then also working with the Civic Association, we already, right before everything kind of went into quarantine, we actually have spoken with a few of their senior members who were interested in kind of creating some gardens with students on our space and at our school. And so we are hoping to be able to start that kind of partnership with our community as well, not just responding to the challenge, but also being able to, as Monica said, be just great community partners and neighbors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Capitol Village from board members? Okay, thank you. And I should have mentioned at the outset for our guests tonight from our new schools, for these new school facility public hearings, we will vote on June 22nd on these schools facilities and overall approval. So June 22nd. Next, Girls Global, Keina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay. Hello again. My name is Hannah Cousino. This is a public hearing on the proposed facility location of Girls Global Academy Public Charter School. The school received conditional approval to operate on May 20th, 2019, and one of the conditions for full approval is securing a facility. Girls Global Academy Public Charter School plans to locate its facility at the Calvary Baptist Church at 733 8th Street Northwest in Ward 2. Pending its full charter approval, Girls Global Public Academy Public Charter School will begin operation in school year 2020-21, seeking to enroll 90 students in grade 9. By school year 2024-25, it will reach maturity, seeking to serve a total of 400 students in grades 9 through 12. Representatives from the school are present to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks. If representatives from the school just want to introduce yourselves and give an opening statement.
Sure. First off, thank you for rescheduling the meeting so that we could have this opportunity to present to you in this virtual setting. I am Karen Venable-Croft, and I am the co-founder and executive director of Girls Global Academy.
And hello, I'm Beth Blafis, the board chair of Girls Global Academy.
Hi, I'm Shayne Swift, co-founder and principal of Girls Global Academy.
I'm Jason Mellon, the director of finance and operations for Girls Global Academy.
Hello, I'm Paige Fryer, the student support services coordinator at Girls Global Academy.
that everyone from Girls Global?
I think so.
I believe we also have Maura as well. Another board member as well. Mm-hmm.
And Max Labasser is in the crowd somewhere.
Great. Did you want to give any more of an introduction before we jump into questions, or should we go right ahead?
We can go straight into it. We can talk about our planning year. We're ready.
Okay. Awesome. Board members?
Fire away. We really are ready, so bring it on.
All right, so can you all, this is Naomi Shelton, can you all give us an overview of your planning year and how that's progressed so far?
Hi, Naomi. Sure. So I want to say that for us, it's been a very exciting year for Girls Global Academy. As you all already know, we're the first all-girls public charter high school in Washington, D.C., designed to offer our education program with our distinctive pathways in engineering and business. And so we're just super excited that we're going to open up our doors to 9th grade girls in August of 2020. And our goal really is to provide our girls with a transformative education experience. And that's what our planning year really has been about. Shayne and I have been really just actualizing our dream and inviting so many people to be a part of this journey with us during our planning year. And the excitement is just really contagious, even during this challenging time. We're building a school as a startup. We're recruiting students and teachers during a pandemic. And it's challenged us in so many ways, but it hasn't stopped us. I can't really speak for Shayne, but I am so grateful that she and I are no longer a duo. We actually have a team. And so anyone knows that's building a school from the ground up knows that it's really virtually impossible to do that without having a team. So we have been successful in adding additional members and instructional staff to our team. They're invested in our mission, fostering pathways to lead and learn, and they are working tirelessly and wholeheartedly to get our school ready for opening day. Our families are excited that Girls Global Academy is a high school option, and Shayne will talk about like the many ways that she's connecting with families. We have a community of supporters that actually believe that our model will serve the needs of high school girls in Washington, D.C. And I think we've been modeling for our founding students and families what leadership looks like and how we'll support and deliver a program where learning is going to be challenging, meaningful, and joyful. I think with our successes that we've experienced, we have also identified some challenges that we have faced. And one of them is the length of the student recruiting process. It really is a year-long process and has many moving pieces. The second is interacting with and for the community during a physical distancing that's required us to change our strategy some. And the third is being able to secure a building and is an arduous process, but we are making shifts and pivots to address the challenges.
And just to add to that, we're rising to that challenge by leveraging three things. First is our enthusiasm for technology. So we're creating community virtually and solidifying our plans to be one-to-one, which was written into our charter application. We're leveraging our human resources in our team, our board, and our founding families by asking them about their needs and experiences, especially during this time, and our unwavering belief that it's our responsibility to teach competencies like pivoting and advocacy, and that we continue to model that for our students as we continue to navigate these uncharted waters that we find ourselves in.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Lea Crusey. Thank you for all of this. Can you share with us any what kind of feedback you've gotten from community members so far, prospective families or stakeholders regarding the facility's location, and how you've responded to that feedback?
Sure. So the first thing that I would like to say that we're continuously growing and working with the community. We have presented at our ANC. So some of the things that we've done in terms of engaging the community, we've canvassed our neighborhood, we've handed out flyers, we knocked on doors, we sent emails, we made calls. And we've been asked to join the Penn Quarter Neighborhood Association so that we can continue to partner and talk to the various organizations that are in Ward 2 and where our building is going to be located. The communication that we've received to opening our school so far has been positive. In our presentation at the ANC meeting, we responded to some questions around like the community and potential challenges that we would have, including safety, traffic, and parking. And one of our pillars really is safety. And so just being able to take safety into our consideration and how our students are moving through the space in our community is really important. And so we are, and Shayne will be able to provide some information on this as well. We're taking a proactive response to that. So we know that some of the concern in the community for certain residential areas because of the metro, that they had a concern about noise. And so Shayne's working on our PBIS model about how students actually move through the community when they are, members of the community. And so that's really important to us, is that we're listening to and hearing what some of the challenges are, and that we're responding within our pillars of sisterhood, scholarship, service, and safety. And what does that mean to be that in the as citizens in Ward 2, where our building is located. One of the other things that Shayne and I were super excited about, and we've always discussed this, is just having our girls participate in our ANC meetings and attend those once a month, so they can hear the concerns that are happening within the community where our school was going to be located, and so that they're able to take that back and then work on how they could be a part of posing positive solutions to things like noise, and how traffic is routed, and then working with other individuals in the community, like our police department that is assigned to our area. I think that it's important that we are working with the community, so that we're able to not be a problem, but to be good neighbors, good citizens, and proactively work through that. Jason would be able to provide additional information about some of the concerns that we addressed at our ANC meeting.
And I can just add, because you did ask about community engagement and families, communication with families as well. We've continued to be consistent and personal with our communication. That was happening, of course, before the lottery, during the lottery, after the lottery. And we're continuing that through phone calls, through texts, through emails, updating our social media on a regular basis, and our newsletter. And we're providing support resources for parents, and doing a lot of generous listening, really calibrating our communications during this time so that we can empathize with families in terms of where they are in the process. And we're doing that through discovery sessions that were taking place face-to-face, but now virtual, to talk about the transition to high school, what the distance learning experience has looked like for them and how they're coping at this time, but also inviting our families to be a part of our community through participating in our hiring interviews and getting involved in that way, because their voices matter to us in terms of how we move forward with hiring our instructional staff.
This is Jim Sandman. Thank you for your presentation. You're going to be co-locating in a building with a number of other organizations, including a church. Can you tell us how you'll go about ensuring that your students are adequately separated from the other activities and organizations in the building?
Sure, I'll start that, and then Jason, you're able to step
Sure.
in. So we are pretty excited about the idea that we are co-locating with some resident partners, and intentionally did that. We are founded in service, and so we already know that Calvary is embedded in the community and service a lot of community members, and that's what attracted us to this location. We were looking for partners and landlords, and we were looking for partners in the people that would be in the building with us. So we are going to be sharing the building with 2 full-time resident partners. One is Milestone Enrichment Center. They serve children from ages 0 to 5, and they will be located on the first floor. So they have like 3 classrooms, and that's where they would be located. The Theater Lab is a school for the dramatic arts. They are currently on the 2nd floor in an office space. The difference with that is that they occupy the building after 6:30, and that's when our programs are ending. So we would literally be sharing the space. We occupy the space during the day up to 6:30, and then the Theater Lab is able to conduct their programs. What was really important for us is that our board wanted us to be able to find a building that we could grow into. And so they really knew and understand that stability for families was really important. And we found that, even though we are going to be sharing the building with 2 resident partners. And so we just met today with one of the landlords, Sally, and her operations team to discuss what our next step is. And we actually do have a plan for how we would ensure the safety of our students, the movement and the timing for when MEC is entering into the building and those parents are dropping off their infants and young children. That time is staggered. They start dropping off their students at 7 a.m. And we don't start receiving our students until 7:45 in the morning. And the way that our students enter into the building, they enter into the building and go directly downstairs into our multi-purpose area, and MEC nor the Theater Lab are entering into that space. The second is that the partnerships that we could that we're able to develop with both of these organizations. Speaking to Tracy, who's the director there, we talked about our girls being able to have internships and come down and be in service to those students and read to them. So safety is really, really important to us. As I said, when we met with Sally, that was specifically the meeting that took place today, that we were speaking about the safety and what the movement is throughout the building for our students and for the other resident partners. And so I think that safety, because it is our #1 pillar, it is the one thing that we are thinking about first and foremost as our students enter the building and the other stakeholders that are in the building as well. And Jason would be able to provide additional details about our plans for that.
Sure. I think Karen has summarized it well, but I'll just add that we do have a two-tier security in order to get into the building, into our space. So our space will be on the 3rd floor as where the classes will occur. There are shared spaces, including the cafeteria and gym, that would be supervised at all times by our staff. But inside of our secure space, in order to get there, you have to first get into the building and then be let into our space. And then I would also add that we are planning to have a community meeting with all of the community partners in May, in late May, to discuss how we're going to work together in partnership to make sure the building is secure for our students.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Ricarda Ganjum. I wanted to ask, as you think about some of the challenges and impacts from COVID-19, how is that shifting any of your thoughts around the culture that you're going to build in the future and the way that the experience you're going to cultivate for your students?
Sure, I'll start with that. I think it always starts with our motto of "Because you matter," and staying true to our 4 pillars of sisterhood, scholarship, service, and safety, even during this challenging time. And we've already started that process. We have pivoted some, but it doesn't, because of COVID, it doesn't change the fact that we're building relationships with our students already, and we're building relationships with our families. We have one-to-one sessions that we've set up with our families in order to know them, because it starts with understanding the needs of our families and what it is they have access to and what don't they have access to, what are their concerns. And so I think the communication that we have had with our founding families is still really centered around our pillars. Because of COVID-19, I want to say and name that there's more information being shared about resources that are available to the citizens and to our families. And one of the ways that we're really supporting our families is that we're sifting through and helping them sort through that information and communicating with them our progress despite the challenges of physical distancing. And we're just making sure that we're having a balanced communication so that our families don't feel overwhelmed, but they actually feel supported before we start asking them about our content. It really is about building a community and us really showing up for them in the ways that they need and how they have asked us for. How they've asked us to support them. So we have pivoted from our face-to-face physical meetings, and those were so wonderful when we were participating in those. We had plenty of families participate, and we were able to make those connections. One of the families said, wow, when Shayne and I were doing our presentations, they were like, you are real. You are really real. You believe in this, and I'm convinced that my daughter is going to be in the right spot and choosing the right high school for her. And so we are also in the midst of creating our online learning plan that will support the needs of all of our students. Paige Fryer is one of our newer members to our team, but she's our student support services coordinator and has been working to make sure that we have equitable access and just really thinking about what online learning would look like at home and taking into account students that have executive functioning issues, students that have anxiety when they don't want their face to be shown on a screen, and what that looks like for our students. We are also looking at we're looking at what the home environment could look like for our students so that they feel comfortable and safe. And so that may mean that we are looking to have, when we're doing a synchronous session, that we have a virtual background that looks the same for all of our students. So no one is worried about what their background actually looks like, so they're comfortable speaking. Shayne will be able to tell you about our sister chat that was super fantastic and wonderful, that our girls were taking risk and speaking about things that they're excited about and what they want from us as leaders. So what we are considering is the whole picture of learning, of learning at home, and our preparations will consider our content, our learning platform, access, and training for all of our stakeholders. That includes our staff, our students, and our families, and then the operational structure of what the potential of virtual learning could be.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Just a quick question before we wrap up. In terms of the your numbers and as far as enrollment, can you just give us an update on that as well?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can do that if you want, Karen.
That's absolutely great, Jason.
Okay, great. So as of this moment, we have 83 students who have matched with us. That actually comes from 205 applications who then we matched with 61 students during match day, and then we've had another 22 applications after that. In terms of enrollment, we have 13 students who have been fully enrolled and 13 students who are almost there. And so we are at 28% of our student enrollment, of our 90% student enrollment that we're anticipating, which is on track with our goal.
And I would like to also add to that, if I may, is that some of the success that we have been experiencing is that we have a very active board. And they challenge us every time we meet in our committees, and to think about the hard questions that we need to really tackle as we are enrolling our students. And I want to say that I am personally proud of the fact that not only that I'm the executive director of Girls Global Academy, but I think Jason is leading recruiting in a way that is honoring our families, and we're taking into account, and we can't forget this, that our students are still a part of another school. And because we are deciding to have a balanced communication approach, the success that we are experiencing is because we are taking the needs of our families into consideration. And I'm proud of Shayne and how she's used social media to continue to develop, you know, our journey through Girls Global Academy, and how she's able to communicate through families in a very personal way in order for us to have the number of applications that Jason just mentioned, that we're on track to be able to have enrollment by June 15th that my school DC has set. And I just wanted to be able to give Shayne an opportunity to talk about some of the personal, the one-to-one conversations that she's been having to help us with our enrollment numbers.
So just very briefly, the one-to-one sessions are really about a student's, a family's hopes and dreams for the future, you know, what they are interested in as they transition away from high school, what might be scary about the transition to high school, because many of our founding students have spent the last 8 years at their school. So we're addressing those things, what families want for their students, what students want, and just taking that all into consideration so that we can personalize their experience once they walk through the doors, either face-to-face or virtually. We want to be able to personalize their experience at Girls Global for them.
Thank you for that. And then if you could really quickly tell us about the contingencies you've put in place in terms of if you don't meet your enrollment goals.
Sure. So right now we have 83 students to date that we've actually offered a seat to enroll at Girls Global Academy, as Jason said. And so we believe that we have a great foundation to be able to have a full enrollment come October 5th, the fall, when the count day happens. So the preliminary contingency budget that we have is that we want to, well, actually, I will say that we have taken 3 primary areas into consideration: the financial feasibility of our building, the fixed costs that we have, and our programming. We want to make sure that above all else, we are able to deliver our programming, and we believe that in order for that to occur, that we need at least 2 classes of students to do that, and that we want to continue to provide our sport and enrichment programs and to deliver our engineering and business. And so with that, a part of that contingency is just ensuring that we are able to operate within our per pupil allotment for our facilities, and make staff adjustments when it's necessary for us to make those staff adjustments. We are ensuring as well that we want to and will operate within our rent reserve. We've identified a rent reserve that we have, and we're willing to spend the rent reserve as part of our contingency, but we don't want to live outside of that rent reserve. And so that would allow us, what I'm speaking of, would allow us to have the lowest possible enrollment in order for us to still deliver our program, have the minimum number of staff to support delivering that program, and still be financially viable at the end of the year, because we do have a goal, a financial goal that we want to be able to attain from our finance committee. And then our leasing just allows us to build in, I said, a rent reserve and a credit enhancement. And so we have those structures already in place that would allow us, if we happen to be below our targeted enrollment, we could still deliver our program based on the 3 areas that I've identified.
And I would just add to what Karen's comments and mention that we have completed and thought about a number of different contingency budgets, including for 30 students, 45 students, and 68 students. So we have done all of that kind of pre-work and homework, so we would be able to pivot quickly depending on student enrollment changes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you so much, Girls Global, and we'll move to iDream.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And are we ready with iDream?
Hi, sorry, my internet connection is currently unstable. What great timing. Okay. Sorry, I just might need a second.
No worries, take your time.
Okay, I'm ready now. Hello again, I am Hannah Cousino, and this will be the 3rd public hearing on a proposed facility location for a new school. This time, I will be presenting for iDream Public Charter School. The school received conditional approval to operate on May 20th, 2019, and one of the conditions for full approval is securing a facility. iDream Public Charter School plans to locate its facility at the East Washington Heights Baptist Church at 2220 Branch Avenue Southeast in Ward 7. This facility formerly housed Digital Pioneers Academy Public Charter School during its 1st year of operation. Pending its full charter approval, iDream PCS will begin operation in school year 2020-21, seeking to enroll 90 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 2. By school year 2025-26, it will reach maturity, seeking to serve a total of 240 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 5. Representatives from the school are present to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks. If the representatives from iDream PCS want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and give an opening statement.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. So I just wanted to say, first of all, what a difference a year makes. This is a very different year, but we are grateful to sit before you again and to engage in this public hearing. I want to send our thoughts and prayers out to you, your families, everyone on this call, and to our DC family in this wild time, and just hope that you all continue to be safe and healthy, and that people whose needs need to be met are met during this time. At this time, I just want to introduce the rest of our school team. So they're going to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Lensa Fufa, Director of Inquiry and Learning. Good to be here with you all.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Whitnall, Director of Operations here. Thanks for having us.
And I'm Janine Gomez. I am the Executive Director. And also in our audience is Diana Banks. She's our board chair. We also have other members of our board in the audience. We want to say hey to them. And we have some families that have joined us that are also on this call and want to say hello to you. So this has been a year. This has been a year of building, of learning, of pivoting, and ultimately of growing. We are very thoughtful. I don't know if you know that about us by now, but we are thoughtful and intentional about our design of our school model. We have selected curriculum. We have developed our multi-tiered system of support plan. We are developing policies and procedures, but in addition, we are also developing our board and building us as a team, our board and our school team, through committee work and through some team building work. We're also building our community action group, and we're building our community of families. We have learned a lot this year. We have been engaged in countless hours of professional development provided by our generous funders, also the Public Charter School Board, and PAVE. And we just want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to learn how to be a successful school. We also have pivoted a number of times, not just through our design and testing out our model, which we've become very comfortable with pivoting, but this pandemic, COVID-19, has changed everything, and you will hear more about how we're thinking about and changing our way of doing and building. But we're growing, and we're growing through this learning in our pivots. We're growing our school team. Matt joined us. We have some very talented consultants, a wellness consultant in Emily Griswold and a principal consultant in Erin Hudson. We've also started hiring staff. We have families who have seen our light and who are joined our community and who are very excited and enthusiastic about being a part of iDream, as you heard in the testimony last week. We continue to build community partnerships, and all in all, we are continuing, in spite of everything, we are continuing to design with the community. That has not changed, and our vision and our mission and our intent to live our core values of relationships, collaboration, purposeful work, and equity has not changed. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you for this. My name is Lea Crusey. You mentioned pivoting a few times. Can you elaborate that on a little bit for us?
Yes, we can. Let's want to start off with our recruitment strategy. I'll let Matt take it from here.
Yeah, so I think very similar to how the previous two schools and some of the other schools that you've heard previously have had to change their plans with the recruitment. Originally, a lot of our plan was working with community-based organizations on the ground. So presentations, holding focus groups, hosting meetings, canvassing in the neighborhood. But now our focus is primarily online efforts. So we've been working really hard to boost our social media presence and advertising to highlight the work that we're doing, or also the work that a lot of community-based organizations are currently doing, such as sharing resources for families. We currently have a marketing team that's helping us develop content. So it's really taking us from our first stage, which was to sort of boost awareness and share with the community who we are. And now we're entering the next stage, which is trying to increase our engagement with the community. A few of the ways that we are doing that are through virtual meetups. So every other week we host a session, which is typically some sort of information session. It could cover wellness activities, instructional resources, health resources, lessons for parents. Just last night, we had a dance party, which was pretty awesome. Our whole school team definitely moved around a little bit. But a future session could cover policy of the school. So we'll invite parents to have a lively discussion about whether we should have uniforms or what our communication policy should look like. So as Janine mentioned, we are a community school, and so we try to incorporate the community as much as possible. We also have campaigns online that feature the dreams of staff, families, learners, and other stakeholders. Of course, one of the challenges we're facing is finding new families, but we're hopefully doing that through social media. And we will, as we've sort of been able to understand the new situation that we're in currently with COVID-19, we're going to renew efforts to connect with community-based organizations and think through ways that we can partner and share more about who we are with the community and hopefully partner with them down the road. So as I'm sure we'll get into later as far as enrollment goes, a lot of our energy currently is converting our current matches and waitlist families. We've built up extremely strong relationships with them. We've been calling kind of the same group of families over the previous several months now. And so we all are pretty close to our own tribes, as we call it. And while we believe a lot of families will ultimately make their enrollment decisions over the summer, we know that the relationships that we've built over the previous months, as well as the connections we're making online, will really pay high dividends as far as converting those applications.
Can I add on to that, just with regards to sort of the pivots that we're making around our learning plans, or do you want to wait for later?
I was going to actually say that if you could go next and just talk about that, Lensa, about how you shifted.
Great. It's very related, actually, just particularly around our Tuesday virtual meetups, which is definitely a great place that we're finding to leverage sort of engagement. But one thing we were really disappointed about was after a very successful February camp, just not, of course, having the opportunity to have an in-person camp over spring break. And so one of the pivots is like, well, so what kind of programming can we provide? And again, in the spirit of continuous piloting and, testing our model and getting feedback from the community, we've seen this as an opportunity, not just to serve families in this great time of need now, but also to inform our long-term planning, which I can get more into later, but focused right now on our current pivot. With what's related to virtual meetups and also the engagement, we always go back to our core values, as Janine mentioned earlier, whenever we make critical decisions in our design. And so as we think, about what it might mean to, implement our core model components through distance learning long term, or even just now in the interim, we first start with those relationships. And so that was, again, a part of the sort of, like our strategy always around recruitment and with sort of shaping our model. But what does that mean online? And so, yes, virtual online hangouts are definitely something that we'll need to figure out, but especially working with very young children, also knowing that a phone call might be a very important way that we still communicate, just to access everybody and to assess what the need is. And so one of the things that we were realizing, I believe, Karen mentioned this earlier, how many resources are currently available. And so rather than providing one more resource, one thing that we were doing was really curating all the resources that have been available. And, I've learned that just because they're free subscriptions doesn't necessarily mean that they're really good for use at home. They're really more teacher resources. So really thinking about what are the felt needs of families as they think about supporting their children through distance learning, and really curating resources that match the individual needs of families. So we had conversations with families to really say, hey, what do you need? And then rather than send them like a big flurry of resources, we were able to be very targeted and share specific resources with them. And so that happened around learning, and also connected to the virtual meetups, sending home physical materials, which, yes, again, there's definitely things that we have to consider around tech and virtual learning, but especially with very young kids, they need to move their bodies, and also as we think long-term about how do we provide materials and set up the home learning environment, if that's going to have to be. So, and that's just something that we didn't see other folks, those aren't resources that were happening. A lot of food was going home, a lot of technology and stuff was going home. So a felt need that we felt was just sending home families, Play-Doh and actually string. There's a very great resource online that provides family play plans for open-ended activities to be used with materials, everyday materials that families may have at home, but also we sent them a survey so that they could request materials, and we were sending them both hard copies and, of course, digital links to those play plans, just really as we think about what does learning need to look like? How does it need to be different to really meet the different conditions, rather than trying to just replicate what we had planned at home? That's just not fair or realistic to families. So that is one major pivot that we are leaning into and really excited about, matching those activities with sort of matching those materials that we send home to virtual meetups to sort of scaffold that learning experience also for families, which they don't always have. They're not teachers. So how can we create a shared learning experience with some of the materials that we send home? And that's been a really exciting project.
Thank you, Lensa and Matt. And I think we've had some other major pivots that we can talk about, but for the sake of time, I just want to name one other. We had in our budget, we had originally budgeted with the expectation of the 4% per pupil increase that, the mayor had proposed. And then we went back, in light of, all that is happening, we went back and we looked at, a 2% increase. What would the budget look like there? We're now at no increase. What's a flat, what would a flat increase, zero increase look like? And so all of our budget now, the budget that we're proposing to our board that we just went through with our finance committee, is based on that 0% increase. And now that we're hearing that there's a possibility that it may even be a reduction in per pupil funding, we're going to go back and take a look at our budget. But right now, our budget is very healthy in terms of our anticipated cash on hand and our net income. We anticipate that a decrease in funding would still be okay and still, be in a comfortable position. But we are going to go back and look at that and just make sure that that is true.
This is Saba Beretta. I wanted to ask about the actual physical space. Two questions. I live in that area, so I know that it's not directly near a metro station. So just wondering how you've thought about that and its impact on recruitment. And then the second question is, it was obviously previously used for a middle school. So what structural changes are you thinking about, or are you thinking about any to the actual physical space?
I'll take the transportation question if that's okay. This is Lensa. I also live. I live, a 10-minute walk from the building, and I don't drive any longer. So I know that the bus route, the W4, is actually a really great one, which is very important because it doesn't just cut across Ward 7, but also through Ward 8 to both Congress Heights Metro and Anacostia, and then it goes north all the way to Deanwood. So that's a really important thoroughfare. And then there are, within walking distance, I think Naylor Road is actually the closest one, which is maybe about a 15-minute walk, like not quite half a mile.
Sure, and am I ready to jump in, Lensa?
Yes, thanks for asking.
Okay, cool. So as far as the work on the church, yes, you're right. Digital Pioneers was there before, and fortunately they put a lot of work into the space, so it's nearly there. But the primary renovation that we're adding are early childhood bathrooms. And so, as you know, for compliance purposes and just for the safety of our learners, the little kids need bathrooms within the classroom. And so we are currently installing bathrooms within we'll have 3 total bathrooms throughout the floor plan. And the work has been going pretty well so far. As of right now, we are only about 2 weeks delayed from the original schedule, and it's primarily due to permits. As you know, DCRA is sort of closed in person, so all of the work that we've been doing is online. However, we have received our postcard permit, which is to start demolition, which we will hopefully start next week. And we are on track to receive our permit, our full permit, the full build permit next week as well. So we fortunately have a lot of leeway as far as how much time the project is estimated to take versus when school actually starts and when staff will be in the building. And so I think a couple of the ways that we are, again, going back to the pivot and preparing under this new environment is that we're getting a jump start on ordering all of our fixtures and materials. So normally we probably wait a little bit longer to order all of that, but we're gonna try to order that next week and store it within the church just to make sure that any potential delay in lead time won't affect us as much as possible. We're also going to take as much safety precautions as possible. So any of the contractors that are in the church will have 100% mask and glove all the time. We are going to limit crew size within the work area and around the building to be concentrated in specific areas, so to minimize the potential for any sort of contamination. And I think one of the silver linings is that the building is currently empty. And so since the church is not occupied, it sort of creates an unrestricted work schedule. So we probably will plan on 4-day work weeks, longer days, giving Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. And so based on our conversations with the owner's rep, who is a contractor himself, it's giving us a 72-hour time lapse in between weeks. And so if for any reason the virus is within the building, that 72-hour time lapse will give it time to die off. And then we are going to incorporate weekly cleanings on Tuesdays to minimize, again, any potential for contamination.
Thank you.
This is Jim Sandman. Can you tell us about your numbers, your application and enrollment numbers to date?
Sure. So we received 103 total applications, and currently we have matched with 40 students, and we've received 31 post-lottery applications. We're currently admitting or opening seats or granting seats to all of our waitlist applications. So that makes a total of 71 families that we have accepted for a seat. And of those, 30 families have accepted and started the enrollment process, and 16 families are enrolled fully.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Steve Bumba. I'm just trying to clarify your numbers. Is that 30 plus 16 is essentially your enrollment right now?
So 30 families have accepted seats, and of those 30, 16 are fully enrolled, and then the other 14 have submitted pieces of work or
got it.
Yeah.
And so in this strange environment, what's the plan to get to full enrollment?
So yeah, I think, so as I was touching on before, it's really connecting with families and the community as much as possible through our online efforts. What we've seen is that, before a couple months ago, we really had sort of a minimal social media presence. And from all of the information, from the resources that we've gathered at social media, we're learning that social media really is king. And so this is sort of our primary method and platform to engage with various organizations, to connect with families. So on top of that, as Lensa mentioned, through our consistent phone calls, we will continue making those phone calls, assessing the needs of families, rather than sort of handing out resources. It's really getting an idea of what are the resources that they need and how can we filter specifically what they need to those families. And I think really the challenge from now through August is, even if we have these 71 students, and as more families apply, how do we continue expanding the number of families that are interested in iDream? And that will be hopefully through our personal connections with the families, and we will rely on some of our close families to reach out to their friends and involve them in our virtual meetups, involve them in any other events that we host, and then hopefully increasing our connections with the various community-based organizations and connecting through their members.
Thank you.
To that end, can you give us have you received any negative feedback from community members or any stakeholders about the facility location? And then how have you responded to that feedback?
Take that. Thanks for that question, Naomi. So we are fortunate, as was mentioned, that East Washington Heights Baptist Church community has had the prior experience of co-locating with digital pioneers just 2 years ago, and actually it's interesting because that was one community concern there. Just lessons learned. Somebody was talking about kids hanging out at the bus stop, and once I kind of clarified that we're an early childhood school, that's probably less likely. They already that shifted their minds. So we're already in conversation, and it's just again clarifying who we are. That was a while back, but you know, and has really greatly helped us to anticipate potential challenges and opportunities of the co-location, such as mitigating, you know, the impact on traffic at the already busy intersection of Alabama Avenue and Branch Avenue in Southeast. Traffic's a very common concern, I know. We've been in touch with Karen Williams, president of the Hillcrest Civic Association, and have discussed the possibility of collaborating with our public safety committee to engage community members along with the various government agencies needed to make these important decisions and get the work done. We know that ANC 7B is also an important partner in this work. I've personally attended almost every ANC 7B public meeting since December 2018, since I have been a resident, and to listen and learn about the needs and concerns of our neighborhood and broader community. I also made announcements about free day camps and other opportunities to learn more about iDreams. And since our signed lease with East Washington Heights Baptist Church in February, I have been in more direct contact with both the ANC 7B Chair, Commissioner Humphrey, as well as our single member district commissioner, Smith McDermott, about the opportunity to engage with the residents of Hillcrest, as well as residents of surrounding neighborhoods, including Penn Branch, Randall Highlands, and my own neighborhood, Fairfax Village. Our school team actually attended the 7B virtual public meeting last Tuesday, and were given the opportunity to briefly share our plans and field any questions or concerns and requests, and also make sort of a request on the record to engage more deeply with the community at an upcoming meeting. They're super busy. It's been a lot of active engagement, and just really challenging to sort of get to get on the agenda. But last week felt like a very important step at that. We did not receive any pushback, and I continue to remain in regular communication to ensure that we have that space. So far, aside from the anticipated concerns around traffic safety, the only other pushback we've received is related to iDream being a charter school. As you all know, at a national level, the tension between public schools and public charter schools is not new, but it's been persistent in our local engagement with residents and families in Ward 7 and 8 for the past 3 years. We continue to meet this pushback with affirming listening ears and the invitation to tell us more about your experience. We've worked to show, rather than tell, a counter narrative about schools, about how schools can work together across sectors to design with families in Southeast DC through our engagement efforts, as we have been talking about already.
Thank you.
Any other questions on iDream? Okay, thank you so much, iDream. We will move to our charter amendments.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Be well.
Hi, everyone. I am Melody Sampson, Senior Manager on the School Quality and Accountability team. Next, we'd like to have a public hearing on the Next Step Public Charter Schools proposal to amend its charter agreement to operate an additional facility at 1420 Columbia Road Northwest. The additional space is about 0.2 of a mile from the school's primary campus, located at 3047 15th Street Northwest. In April 2019, DC PCSB approved the school to increase its ages served from 16 to 24 to 16 to 30. This adjustment seems to have resulted in increased enrollment requiring an additional facility. The school will use the space to grow its advanced adult education programs. The Next Step Public Charter School has an enrollment ceiling of 500 students and does not require an increase at this time. However, the school may apply for an enrollment ceiling increase in the future to accommodate anticipated demand. The school received a letter of support from ANC 1A, and I'll ask the board to vote on this proposal later tonight. For now, representatives from the school are present to answer any questions you have.
Hi, it's Ricardo Ganjum. I wanted to ask a little bit about how Next Steps is thinking about the COVID-19 impacts on your school. what you're experiencing and how you've been responding and what you're seeing with your student body.
Sure. Thank you so much for your question. This is Jonathan Mathis. I serve as the Executive Director for the Next Step. One of the things that we have been thinking a lot about is when we think about the potential impacts of social distancing on a school setting and our peers across the city, we have to think about how we use our space. And when we saw our enrollment this fall, so fall of 2019, increase dramatically, we began thinking about, okay, well, how do we effectively use the space? Number one, should we be fully engaged in in-person instruction? As we entered the pandemic, we have already established really strong uses of learning management platforms such as Schoology to house our interim assessments and other matters for intervention and academic support. But what it boiled down to was the physical space. Having access to almost 8,800 additional square feet for academic programming, student support, and the operations of the Next Step, that for us was extremely critical even before we had to think about the potential guidance on any sort of social distancing for the education experience moving forward.
Other questions from the board?
And I do know we have our board members all on as well, just to provide a bit more context around the amendment, just to make sure we know that the vote is tonight. So we want to take just a moment to walk through a few remarks to be sure that any potential question you may have could be answered in those remarks. I'm not sure if our board chair is unmuted, John Ingold, but I also know Sean Richardson is on today as well.
Yes, Sean is here.
Please go ahead.
Is John online?
I'm not sure, but let me take a moment just to introduce Sean Richardson. He serves as the Secretary of the Board of Trustees for the Next Step Public Charter School. As was shared by Melody, we have recently, in this past year, had an increase in our age ceiling from 16 to 24 to 16 to 30. So as was shared and as is documented in our charter amendment application, we saw an increase in demand around our academic program. But what Sean will share is a bit more around how we engage the community and our thoughts around our achievement thus far and the use of space. And then I'll share a few thoughts as well.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening. Once again, my name is Sean Richardson, and I am the Secretary of the Board of Trustees for the Next Step Public Charter School. I'll speak briefly about our school's current strategy and how this amendment will accelerate it, as well as touch on our engagement process for preparing for the amendment. TNS is now in its third year as a Tier 1 school, with the vast majority of our students in our programs making academic gains, earning diplomas, and exiting into employment or post-secondary education. We feel these accomplishments are the product of coherent strategy and implementing it with excellence. There are 5 strategic priorities that guide our work, one of which is focused on innovating within our academic model to develop an early college program, which enables students to earn college credit as they complete their secondary credential, and also develop the life skills necessary to succeed while balancing the demands of work and family. The charter amendment we're discussing tonight and the expansion of space it makes possible is directly in service of promising programs like early college. The amendment you're considering was informed by extensive engagement. Externally, we hosted 2 comprehensive community meetings to engage local employers of our students, nonprofit organizations, and leaders with our ANC commissioner. Participants expressed strong support for efforts and many asked to submit letters of support, which you have read. Internally, we engage our staff in multiple dialogues to assess potential impacts on sustainability, culture, and community. Staff overwhelmingly support the acquisition of additional space. 92% agree that we should consider acquiring additional space to support operations and instruction. and the faculty and staff would benefit from greater collaborative work and space, both in the main building and in a second site. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and now we will hear from our Executive Director, Jonathan Mathis.
Thank you again, Sean, and of course, members of the board, our trustees who may be attending virtually, as well as members of the management team, learning community. We have definitely, moved through a second amendment within a 2-year time frame. So I want to pause to offer gratitude for the tremendous support and insight through this process as we continue to advance the growth and the impact of work at the next step. As you're aware, we seek to provide students who face extraordinary challenges and who are not supported in traditional high schools with the opportunity to continue their education, and that is captured in our mission. As such, this charter amendment for the use of additional space provides us with greater capacity to meet students where they are and to eliminate barriers that might stand in the way of their aspirations. Our use of the second space includes enhanced enterprise support, including collaborative workspaces. Innovation and synergy are the norm. We envision spaces that resemble the post-secondary environment, thus assisting in the transition for the student experience at the next step to what is expected in the college environment. Our ability to house our pilot efforts for the advanced ESL in the form of early college at the next step, as well as to increase classroom sizes and the capacity of our childcare function in our building at 3047. This all assures us that we can continue to address many of the barriers interrupting student participation and achievement in education. Our seamless academic experience now includes a chief academic officer who serves to ensure connection and alignment of experiences and expectations for the academic program in both spaces. We also anticipate even greater distributed leadership and alignment across the organization to remain one school. Our students stated that they desire a greater sense of community, including spaces to conduct group project meetings, independent study, as well as one-on-one and small group instructional supports and office hours for various faculty in our programs. We also believe even now that the forthcoming recommendations for life and the instructional experience following our public health crisis will require that we have additional space to increase the effectiveness of social distancing and the ability to schedule for intensive recovery efforts. In closing, we expect that our second space is absolutely necessary for the context and the future aspirations of our adult learners readying for post-secondary engagement and success. As I mentioned, with nearly 8,800 additional square feet, including the potential of 5 classrooms, office spaces, and collaboration spaces, we firmly believe that the second space will, in the very near future, support an application for increased enrollment ceiling. These efforts support innovation, sustainability, as well as intentional efforts to support the aspirations of our learners. Thank you.
Hi all, this is Lea Crusey. Thank you so much for this presentation. Can you share with us how the Next Step community is experiencing and responding to the pandemic and how the DC PCSB may support you through this health crisis?
Sure. I would say we have had to first focus on the basic needs of our learners. One of the things that we spend a tremendous amount of time, especially working with students who have been previously disconnected from education, is to align all of those necessary supports to make sure that when students are arriving to learn, they're ready to learn. So we have had to think through the provision of basic needs for students who may not have access to city resources or federal resources. So advocacy, of course, is always important for the sector, and especially for adult learners, and my peers at the adult LEAs will certainly co-sign to that point. As we think about moving forward, one of the big questions that we continue to grapple with is this: when we think about sustainability and the drop of revenues in the city, we have to think about what will it take to continue the level of intensity of our work, especially for students who have experienced tremendous trauma during this time, but also how do we re-engage a sector of learners who have already experienced tremendous challenge throughout the journey. So those are some of the key things that we're spending a lot of our time thinking through. How do we re-engage and re-excite adult learners across the city to have the level of achievement that would align with their aspirations. The other piece that we have to think through is the sustainability of devices and connection to internet so that quality learning can continue. One of the greatest challenges that we still see, and we're not sure what this will look like as it plays out, is one of our key measures of success is GED completion. There is really no way to engage a student with a GED assessment if they are unable to engage the testing center. So how do we keep students motivated and excited about learning if they do not have an opportunity to show their growth and achievement? So those are some of the principal things that we spend a tremendous amount of time thinking about and strategizing that unfortunately some just still don't have answers, but we remain ready to take on the task.
Hi, this is Naomi. Just a couple of questions about the financial implications of the space and your transition. You know, of course, in COVID-19, things are still up in the air. But in terms of do you anticipate an influx in your enrollment? What are you anticipating, and what are the financial implications of you moving into this larger space?
Sure. Thank you so much for that question, Naomi. Our board has been very proactive prior to this entire conversation around appropriate use of our reserves. So as of tomorrow, actually, we will have paid off our current building early. We would have satisfied our mortgage a year and a half prior to its maturity. With that payment, we will still have nearly 270 days of cash on hand in our reserves. So in terms of sustainability, the lease payment for the second space will allow us to have nearly a $10,000 to $12,000 savings per month in comparison to what our mortgage payment would have been. Our goal is to maintain our current enrollment, even our projection for next year. We are suggesting very little change to the number of students we will serve, and thinking through all of the things to our peers, the peer LEAs who spoke about the challenge of enrollment in this particular time frame. The level of community engagement will continue to be the main way for us to engage students and to maintain that enrollment. We also believe that the extension of the advanced ESL to include an early college experience will help us to re-engage students who completed the Spanish GED and who are looking for an opportunity to perfect their skills so that they can be successful in college and contribute to a knowledge-based economy. So we believe that that extension of our program and the space and the time and the flexibility for programming will re-engage learners, but also serve as another option for adult learners across the city, especially those who are English language learners.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
This is Jim Sandman. I don't have any questions. I just want to commend the team for the great job you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I represent a community of over 100 professionals and volunteers. So we all appreciate that. And thank you all for the work that you're doing, and to my peer LEAs, sending lots of luck and support way as we continue to navigate through.
And ditto to what Jim said. This is Steve Bumba.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up, we will move on to Lee Montessori PCS.
This is a public hearing to discuss Lee Montessori Public Charter School's proposal to amend its charter agreement to relocate its East End campus from 2501 Martin Luther King Avenue Southeast to 2345 R Street Southeast. The school has entered into a 5-year lease with Eagle Academy for the space, which was initially intended for Eagle Public Charter School's Fairlawn campus. Lea Montessori intends to serve 125 students in grades pre-K 3 through kindergarten at the new site this fall. An anticipated challenge for Lea Montessori is that the new facility can only accommodate up to 216 students, and the school intends to serve 400 students at its East End campus at capacity. The school is considering expanding the facility, leasing additional space, or limiting the school's enrollment schedule to address this disparity. Representatives from the school are available tonight to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. This is Alex Brown, the founder and head of school of Lea Montessori East End. I guess first I would just like to say that I hope you and all of your families are doing well, and that you've been able to find some rhythm to your personal and professional lives. And then I would also like to say we very much appreciate the guidance that you guys have given us during this time. I have a few people on the call with me that I'd like to just introduce really quickly. We should have Dominique Fortune, Chief of Staff, on the call with us. Chris Pensakowski is our head of school. And I believe Rochelle Kimbolko, which is our assistant head of school, should be on the call with us as well.
Yes.
Great. Did you have a opening statement you wanted to make besides the introductions, or should we jump into questions?
You could just jump into the questions. It's fine.
Okay, great. I'll kick it off actually. I'm curious, I think everyone is well aware of some of the community response when Eagle first built the facility that you're moving into. So just would love to hear how communications with the community, the surrounding community have gone, and what kind of feedback you're getting as you prepare to move in.
Absolutely. Dom, you want to take that question, Dominique?
Yep, happy to. Hi, everybody. This is Dominique Fortune. So we have actually had the pleasure of working with the community, and we haven't had, for the most part, and knock on wood, any pushback. So as soon as we knew that we were signing the lease, we started to do some really specific community outreach, but similar to what we've done at our Brookland site. So we notified the ANC, we notified the Ward 8 council members, we reached out to the DCPS schools in the neighborhood, so Randall Highlands and Boone Elementary. We met with Dr. Jackson King at Boone Elementary, attending ANC meetings, canvassing the neighborhood. We attended the local Ed Fest. We have opened the school up, or when we will open the school up, we'll open it up for civic association meetings, Ed Council meetings. Yeah, so I mean, people have just asked if we're already in the neighborhood, and I think because we're east of the river, that really settled a lot of the pushback that we might have had. But like I said, for the most part, everyone has been really welcoming. Our contact information has been made available to the community. So I think just them having access to us has made a big difference. Little things that we do, like folks will email me if there is like a big piece of trash in the front yard or the backyard, and I'll go over there and move it. So I think like little gestures like that have gone a long way.
Thanks. And just, have you shared potential plans for expansion with the community, and how's that response been?
So we've shared with them what our enrollment trajectory looks like for the R Street facility. So they're super aware of that. We have a really slow enrollment trajectory, which impacts us financially, but as far as like a community thing, it makes it a lot easier for them as far as traffic is concerned, which is one of the things I think that a few folks have mentioned is always a concern. But beyond that, like right now, we are focused on R Street. And so that's the extent of conversations that I've had with anyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hi, it's Ricarda Ganjam. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your COVID-19 experience and response to your stakeholders.
Yeah, so I would say, like many schools, we were able to just flip the switch within about 72 hours from the time we made the announcement to the families in our staff community until going online. And so I think we've been pretty successful at transitioning everyone onto the online platform. We are currently doing 8 class offerings, 3 academic offerings with about 5 different specials, including things like gardening, music, story time. Obviously, we're currently still only pre-K 3 and pre-K 4. But then we do a host of one-on-one academic sessions with children. We do academic sessions with families. We have hosted things like nap time chats with leadership via Zoom and Google Hangouts. We have partnered with our FTAs to do happy hours with our parent community. We're doing Montessori at home sessions. I think we've done 3 up until this point. So I would say like we've been pretty successful at getting people on board, you know, trying to figure out how to use the technology at home with their children in a way that makes sense for them and is comfortable, especially for that age group. And so, yeah, again, I think we've been pretty successful with that so far.
Great, thank you. And just curiously, is there any other support that you feel the school needs from the board or from other public entities?
Chris, you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, I think, you know, like we always are appreciative of the support from the Charter School Board. I gotta have in particular thank Tamika and Nicole for all their work with community outreach. Nicole in particular has really helped us out and given us some great advice on how to do this and do it in a strong, high quality manner. We're really hoping that that can continue with that support as things go down the road. You know, like, and clearly as things get kicked off, there will be challenges. We're going, and I think the PCSB staff knows we've always been really upfront with you all on when we are facing those challenges and seeking out help and not being shy about those things. And then, you know, of course, then there's the other issues like that a lot of the other schools have mentioned tonight around funding, where, you know, the lack of certainty around what the budget is going to look like for next year is you know, causing a lot of angst amongst our staff, our families, the folks on this call. So anything that you all can do to try to ensure that funding stays consistent and hopefully to the mayor's previous promise would be super appreciated.
Great, thank you. And thank you for all you're doing.
Hi, this is Lea Crusey. Given the fixed cost nature of the lease, meeting enrollment targets is critical. And building off the last comments around budget too, how confident are you that you'll be able to meet those enrollment targets?
I would say that we're pretty confident that we'll meet our enrollment targets. We had 55 open spots for this year. Luckily and fortunate enough, we've been able to match all 55 of those, which is fantastic. We also doubled in applications from the previous year. So this year, we've got 243 applications for those 55 open positions, and we're at 105 students currently waitlisted. The excitement has been really good since we made the announcement to move into what we hope will be our forever home at 2345 R Street. So I think the community itself, the Fairlawn community, has been excited about us actually taking over that building. Our current families have expressed a lot of excitement. We have a lot of families that are in that community already, so that was very helpful. And so one of the things that we had as a bonus over the last year is when we were in enrollment season, we still did not have a building that we could call home yet. And so we don't have that challenge now. So we've been able to make that announcement and drum up that excitement around being in this space, which is, you know, obviously everyone knows it's a beautiful space, it's a new space. So our families are really excited to take this on.
Hi, this is Naomi. You've spoken a little bit about the community's perception or how you've engaged with the community and what the feedback has been. In the charter agreement application, you commit to developing and sharing a traffic plan. Can you walk us through what that plan looks like for drop off and pickup? And what's the status of that?
Yeah, I can. I'll take it first, and then Dom, if you want to chime in with some of the conversations you have with the ANCs. I mean, again, we only have 130 families next year with the addition of the 55 that we're now adding. We don't think that we're going to have any challenges around pickup and drop off. It's a pretty staggered start and ending to the school day when you consider the fact that we do before and after care, starting as early as 7 a.m. And the end of the day for students in aftercare ending as late as 6, right? And so our drop-off window, which we do a kiss and ride style drop-off, is between 8:20 and 8:30 in the morning, with a pickup being generally a little bit longer. This year we did 3:45 to 4:05. We expect that we'll likely do the same. But the way the traffic is facing Naylor Road, we don't have any homes, directly adjacent to us that are facing the school. So we just don't see having those challenges. And then we have about 250 feet of street space for pickup as well, right? And so at those times where, commuters that's in the neighborhood need to go around our pickup and drop off, those things won't be a challenge as well. Dom, anything you want to piggyback on there?
Yeah. So Lee Montessori had a board meeting on Monday, which was which conflicted with a meeting that they were actually having around traffic for 8A. So I have a meeting scheduled with one of the ANCs to just go over exactly what came out of that conversation. We're really flexible with the community around traffic concerns. And so I've talked to Commissioner Thompson and Presswood to let them know, with traffic, even a 5-minute difference, a 2-minute difference makes a huge impact on like the clicks that they're taking for traffic counts. So if we need to push our start time back by a few minutes for like the main drop-off sort of traffic that we would typically have, then we're open to doing that. So it's an ongoing conversation, but something that I expect we'll be able to work out with the community shortly. They have some they have some questions out to DDOT. So once we hear back on what would work best for that neighborhood, then we'll decide. But yeah, we're super flexible, whatever works best for the folks in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, thank you, Lee Montessori. We'll move on to KIPP DC PCS.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a public hearing to discuss KIPP DC Public Charter Schools proposal to start a high school success program that will provide students an alternative pathway to a high school diploma. To launch this alternative program, KIPP DC will need an amendment to its curriculum and graduation requirements, as well as a competency-based learning waiver. The school plans to pilot the program with 20 students in school year 2021, ultimately growing to 40 students in school year 24-25. Students enrolled at KIPP College Prep and KIPP Somerset may participate, and the program will operate out of College Prep's facility. KIPP developed the High School Success Program to meet the academic and social emotional needs of students who have experienced hardships that impede their ability to succeed in a traditional high school model. Students in the program will be age 15 to 21 in grades 10, 11, or 12, 2+ credits behind in any one subject, and or have 20 or more unexcused absences in one school year. Representatives from the school are available to answer any questions you have.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Somal Shah, and I'm the Vice President of Planning and Design at KIPP DC. I'm joined by 3 members of the KIPP DC team: Andra Lutz, the current principal of KIPP College Prep; Nancy Meekum, our Managing Director of Secondary Strategic Initiatives; and Stephanie Young, the incoming principal at KIPP College Prep, and also my early partner in planning for this program. Each of them has been instrumental in our planning and will join me in answering your questions. At KIPP DC, we promise every student that we will support them in their post-secondary life. Over the years, we have learned that some KIPD students face obstacles that prevent them from graduating high school with a diploma. Students who are parenting, supporting family members with jobs, or have other adult responsibilities often need additional support and flexibility in high school. To provide this needed support and flexibility and help all of our students graduate, we want to pilot a new high school program. To create this program, we are seeking your approval for 3 amendments to our charter. These amendments include updating our curriculum to add the competency-based online learning platform, Summit Learning. For graduation requirements, we include some credit barriers, which include the health requirement, the physical education requirement, and the community service requirement. Finally, we seek to allow students to earn credits based on demonstrated proficiency, skill, and program completion rather than seat time. That is, we are applying to award competency-based credits for this program. We're happy to answer your questions at this time. Given this new format, I'll try my best to delegate questions to the appropriate members of the KIPDC team. Thank you.
Hi, I'll jump in. This is Steve Bumbaugh. So the students you are focused on in these proposed amendments, what portion of your high school population do you estimate they account for? And what is happening to these students now?
Yeah, so I'll start and I'll have Andra sort of talk in a little bit more detail about the specific story. So when we sort of thought about this, we took a 3-year historical view of students at KIPP College Prep, and the numbers were largely consistent in each year. So I'll just use the latest year we had. We had about 89 students with 30 or more absences, 129 students that were undercredited just in any sort of form in core content areas, 31 homeless, small numbers out due to like medical issues, and 20 students that dropped out at some point after being in our 9th grade cohort. That's like sort of on an annual basis.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just think in terms of percentages. So that's 89, 31 out of how many?
Yes, 825 students at KIPP College Prep.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, please go on.
Yeah, so we then sort of drilled down into current 10th and 11th graders at KCP and Somerset College Prep. That is the high school that we restarted this year. And we found that about 50 students were off track in core content areas. In 10th grade, we looked at 4 earned credits in core classes. In 11th grade, less than 8 earned credits in core classes. And so we believe it's about 50 students, 50 to 70 total students within both schools. So that's 825 at KCP and about 170 at Somerset College Prep. Somerset College Prep, because it was not performing as well academically, has a much higher proportion of students that meet these criteria than does KIPP College Prep.
I have one more follow-up question, and I know the Somerset piece complicates it a little bit, but how, if this adjustment were successful and you were able to move these students to high school completion, what would the difference be in your high school graduation rates and in your retention rates? So what I'm trying to get at is, do we see these students transfer away from KIPP and then drop out? I'm not saying it as well as I'd like to, but how much would you see retention and high school graduation rates improve if this were a smashing success?
Yeah, I would say because we are not talking about a huge percentage of students at KIPP College Prep, I don't think the changes in our overall academic outcomes would be dramatic. I would also say we're not looking to change anything about our mission or academic goals in terms of proficiency. We're simply trying to retain more kids and do sort of better by them. Andra, do you want to talk a little bit more about like what happens, what you typically see happens to students, and if you think that this would drive some meaningful shifts in our overall numbers?
Sure. Thanks so much for having us tonight. What happens now is that students who are lacking credits, they will continue, but eventually what happens is they will leave us. And that's the part that we don't want to happen. They will leave us, they will go to a stay program within Washington, D.C., sometimes they will leave us and they won't continue their studies. And we don't want them to leave us. And that is actually the undergirding idea behind a big part of this proposal.
Thank you. I'll let other board members ask questions now. Thanks a bunch.
Hi, this is Saba Beretta. I have a few questions just on how students will be transitioned to the program. It sounds like you've identified a number of students already who would be potential candidates. If you could talk about just like how you envision those students being recruited into the program, if it's, will they be able to say no to that? And then students who are in the program, will they be able, let's say they are very successful all in the program, could they transition back to the traditional program, and how would that work in terms of accepting their competency credits back into the traditional program?
Thanks, Saba. That's a great question. So Stephanie, do you want to start by talking a little bit about the work that we've done with students to date and what we envision the admissions process to be?
Sure. Hi, I'm Stephanie Young. So the students wouldn't just be like handpicked. It would be a group of, it would be the staff that works at the program, along with the staff at the current school of either KCP or Somerset. And those would be a conversation between all of those people, as well as talking to the family, talking to the student. They wouldn't be forced into the program. It would be more optional with a recommendation from us.
Yeah, so what we would imagine would happen is at the end of each term, the KIPP-DC high school data team and grade level deans would review student progress and achievement data to determine students that might qualify for the program and might be better educated in this different setting. They would meet with those eligible students and families, discuss like an individual student promotion plan, and share like more information about what this option looks like and why it may work better. From there, we would allow students and families to visit the program, meet with program staff, and then they would participate in like an in-depth personalized intake process to better understand individual student goals, interests, strengths, and credits. And we imagine eligible students would enter the alternative program at the start of each semester, probably in September or January. Nancy, do you want to talk a little bit about how we envision the sort of moving back and forth from the alternative setting to the traditional setting, and also maybe talk a little bit about what we found in talking to the other alternative schools within the city? Nancy, are you there?
Hi there. Hi all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, okay. This is Nancy Meek. I'm at KIPP-DC. Thank you so much. Yeah, just to add on to Somal and Stephanie's notes, the personalized intake process is based on the sort of social emotional learning that we know our students need, and a primary person model of their current grade level dean or teachers and advocates, talking with them about really what's the right next move and how to help them be most successful. And we had the opportunity to visit a number of different alternative programs, including the DCPS stay programs. I myself was a teacher at a high school like this in New York, and then worked in the Bloomberg administration to open a dozen more schools similar to this. And I think it's really important, and I think our team believes it's important for the students to make a positive choice for their future and to sort of take ownership in understanding their credit needs and the steps they need to take to be successful. And we plan to staff the program with adults who serve as mentors and coaches to help the kids succeed and achieve their own goals. And of course, we're planning now that the school would be located within KIPP College Prep, and students would, of course, have the choice to opt back into the more traditional system if they felt that was a better fit.
And would they be, just that last part of my question was, would they be able to, how would they take the whatever competency credits they earned while in the alternative program? Would they be able to kind of, how would you translate those back to the traditional program?
Yeah, so they will stay on the register of their high school and just attend this program like any other program. The credits, the competency-based credits would be essentially credit, you'd earn credit or no credit. So as students progress through, as they pass each course, they would earn a grade that could be translated into a GPA, but the program would not award Ds and Fs. It would be open to just measure and reward mastery and support positive growth. And if a child or a student needed to repeat a class or go back and receive more tutoring, additional interventions and support, they could retake the class as many times as they needed without being penalized. The goal would be to make a lot of scaffolding, structuring, and support to help kids be successful, and not a whole lot of barriers or punishments or penalizations for not yet mastering the material.
Thanks. Just one last question. It sounds like there's a lot of flexibility in this model and the HSSP model that is, meant to work for students who have not been successful in the traditional setting. Sometimes those students also have just attendant other supports that they need, and so just would like to hear about how you're thinking about the socio-emotional piece of this, and how you're thinking about the right staff to staff up the program that will be the best staff to help students be successful.
Sure, I'll start on the staffing piece, and then I'll have others sort of jump in on the socio-emotional piece. So as we thought about like what this would look like, particularly with the size of the program, of course, because it's optional, we don't have a perfect identified number of students. Thought about having a program leader who would possess knowledge of special education and mental health with the ability to coach and support. We're also thinking about a student to teacher ratio of about 10 to 1. So we want to have really deep like mentorship level relationships, and we would have a sort of a teacher in each core content area. We're also hoping to share staff with KIPP College Prep. And so we would have a shared, and it's in the building, so shared mental health practitioner that is responsible for individual counseling, advisory, crisis management. There would be a community support manager, and we're working with our KIPP Through College and Career team that is responsible for attendance, outreach, home visits, community resources, and partnerships and career support. And then there would be a shared business compliance manager and data support. So things like reporting and compliance and sort of office level activities. Nancy, do you want to talk a little bit about the socio-emotional components of this?
Yeah, I think we understand that to be one of the crucial aspects of the program. We definitely know these students and understand that they have needs that are not being met in the large traditional high school setting. And so the goal is to provide a setting that's frankly just more smaller, warmer, and cozier with really personalized support, mentoring, coaching, and academic intervention. We also look at, as we're staffing it, we really want to look for the right fit. We have people on staff who we think will be well suited for this. I just want to also add that KIPP College Prep benefits from a DBH partnership through the school-based mental health expansion. So KCP has already partnered with the Mary Center to provide additional mental health supports, and over the years, KIPP DC has been able to increase social workers and mental health practitioners at KCP, and we look forward to continuing that really important work. And this program would benefit from all of those supports and related services, student support services, et cetera.
Thank you.
This is Jim Sandman. Do you anticipate that once a student enters this program, the student will remain in it until she or he graduates? Or do you expect that some students might return to the schools from which they came?
So in our conversations with the Opportunity Academies at DCPS and other alternative programs in the city, most of them told us that once students come to that sort of model of learning that is more self-directed, that allows them like for instruction to be differentiated so that they're not getting frustrated, right? That they've fallen behind somewhere and they can't catch up, that they tend to stay in those programs. And so my sort of working assumption is that most students will end up staying in the program, but that is sort of not our intent. And it's part of the reason why we're not saying like ninth graders would be eligible for the program, because we want people to try the traditional high school experience, see if it works for them, and only if it sort of, there are sort of additional needs that we would consider the alternative program. That's not to say that we won't learn things in doing this alternative program that could also not apply to the larger high school community. And so I don't want to close off that, but I do believe most students would end up staying in this program.
So it's your expectation that that's how it will work out, but that won't be a requirement or a feature of a built-in feature of the program.
That's correct. We want students to be in the environment that works best for them.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Lea Crusey. I understand that this program is going to be using, or the pilot will be using, the Summit Learning platform. Can you share with us why this is the appropriate fit for the mission and curriculum?
Yeah, I can take that one. This is Nancy Meekum again, and I've been knee deep in all of the Summit Learning trainings and modules, and have really spent a lot of time along with the team doing research about other platforms and modalities and curriculum that are available in the universe. And honestly, during this current situation with COVID-19, we're very excited to be kind of ahead in understanding the Summit Learning platform and sort of the overall ethos and model. We expect to continue to use KIPP DC curricular materials and curriculum where appropriate, but we are excited about the Summit Learning platform because it provides us like a technical platform to access materials in a more fluid, flexible, modern way. And it offers baseline materials for many more courses than we are able to offer now at all grade levels and all subject areas. So in some ways, we didn't even necessarily think we needed to apply for a curricular amendment, because I think we don't plan to change what we teach. We don't plan to change the expectations or the outcomes for our students. We just would like to change how we teach and how we reach our students. And we're excited about Summit Learning. I know you had asked how we chose it. We have, over the last 3 years, really been researching a variety of different programs and platforms. And we visited a range of alternative high schools, and we were impressed by the feedback we got from the DCPS Opportunity Academies. And we spoke honestly with students who had been at KCP, who were at DC Opportunity Academies, and explained why this worked better for them. And the technical support, the professional development, and the training we've gotten so far from Summit just kind of confirms that we're happy so far. We're interested in piloting it, and we are enthusiastic, but we are also, we are difficult customers, and if it doesn't work for us, we will work to amend it or seek out something new later. But for now, I think our team and our academic leadership has felt that this is the best fit for us for this program now.
Thank you for that. I had a follow-up question. Has this, whether the program or some variation of the program with the use of Summit Learning platform, been used or piloted at any other KIPP network regions?
I don't believe it has. I don't believe it has. I'll add that KIPTC has been in a 3-year partnership with Turnaround for Children, which has provided us professional development and structures around a trauma-informed approach to our students. And part of why we have been drawn to Summit is it seems to be based on many of the same concepts. So the idea of fostering students' development of cognitive skills, content knowledge, and habits of success, that aligns really well with work we've been doing to train and sort of modernize our network over the last 3 years. So this feels like the natural next step. I also think, you know, their components of mentoring, self-direction, project-based learning, and more traditional math units, it just fits with kind of who we are as a network and also who we want to become as we seek to modernize and develop more flexibility to serve all of our students.
Hi, it's Ricardo Ganjam. I wanted to ask a little bit about how KIPTC has been experiencing and responding to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, I have been amazed at my colleagues who are working to serve meals, get remote learning packets out to students. We've got Chromebooks for grades 5 through 12 out to every single student. We're working on getting hotspots out to families that don't have technology, tablets out to pre-K through 4. Families are doing incredible gymnastics to make their schedules work and support their students. And so I'm just really sort of proud of the team, and we are sort of working through all of the uncertainty like other LEAs, and we are appreciative of the work of the DME, the PCSB, and OSSE in supporting us with the sort of needed flexibilities. I'll let Andra talk a little bit about like what her day-to-day experience has looked like at the high school.
Sure, thank you. I have to say, you all can't see me right now, but I am old and I have been doing this for a long time. And this is just an absolutely fascinating situation. In the 2 days before students left school, we handed out 1,000 Chromebooks. Our teachers immediately started posting live lessons. They also record those lessons so that students can access the lessons on their own timeline. And frankly, I think this has been very helpful for us as we think about students moving at their own pace. Our teachers also have office hours. We call them office hours because we're college facing, and it's a time where our teachers can tutor students, can answer any questions. Students get together in groups and work on their assignments. And then our advisory system has continued. Our teachers call individual students. We also call families and just check on each other a lot. And sometimes we get the feeling our students are also checking on our teachers. And I just have to say, just very publicly, just thanks to the teachers and the students and the families and to KIPTC for all of the support in this just remarkable experience.
Great, thank you. And I would just echo your thanks as well.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Scott Pearson. I have a couple of brief questions. One is, when students who go to this academy earn a diploma, what will the diploma be from? Will it look exactly like a KIPP College Prep diploma, or will it be from the program, or how will that work?
Yeah, hi Scott, this is Somil. I think we are still working through exactly, yes, I think it will be a diploma from the high school of which they are enrolled, their sort of home high school. And we are trying to figure out how to translate the competency-based sort of grading practices into a transcript that works for colleges and would allow students to transfer to other schools if they so chose. So we haven't figured out the specific details around that, but are working through that as we speak.
Do you think it's important to distinguish on the diploma or on the transcript that students went to this program, so that colleges or employers or whomever understands that they were attendees at an alternative program as opposed to the normal KIPP program?
I think because the credit requirements may be slightly different, there would be some denotation that this is a different program.
And then, you know, as I think we would all agree that school and high school have many purposes, one of which is to develop civically aware individuals. And so with that in mind, I would appreciate if you'd explain your rationale for eliminating the community service requirement as opposed to perhaps reducing it or making it more flexible.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've done some thinking about this. Andra, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Hi, Scott. I think the rationale is that we just want to try and eliminate any barriers that our students have to graduation. We definitely see a civic and community service aspect to this program. We see it as team building also, but we just want to try and make it as seamless as possible for our students to graduate.
Well, I suppose if you took that to its logical extreme, you could just give them a diploma without having to do anything at all.
I don't think, so I think as we looked at it, we thought the community service requirement was one thing that our students had said was just sometimes a hard requirement for them in terms of doing more outside of school. And that was our thinking.
And I would just add that there are hundreds of reputable districts and networks that do not have a community service requirement, unlike something like math, reading, et cetera. And we see, it plays out sometimes inequitably what students are able to get a letter signed that they've completed hours, et cetera. And we just want our students to not be burdened by something that has been a barrier for them.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, thank you so much, KIPP DC.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Next we have DCI.
Yep. Can you hear me? This is Nikhil.
Yes.
All right. I'm Nikhil Vashi. I'm a specialist on the school quality and accountability team. This is a public hearing to discuss DC International School's request to amend its goals and academic achievement expectations. The school has adopted the PMF as its goals, but also has mission-specific goals, which it seeks to revise. Specifically, DCI met its goal to become an IB World School by school year 2020-21, and now proposes a goal to maintain that status. The school also asks to adjust its language proficiency goal, which is measured by the Standards-Based Measurement of Proficiency, or STAMP assessment. DCI proposes that 50% of 11th graders who have studied the language at DCI for at least 5 years will receive a STAMP score of 4 in Chinese and 5 in French or Spanish. Finally, DCI proposes removing the goal that 50% of its students with disabilities or English language learner students earn the Middle Years Program Certificate or IB Diploma Certificate due to technical issues related to incompatibility with the school's Chromebooks, which prevents the school from being able to administer this assessment. Representatives from the school are here to answer any questions you may have about their proposal.
Hi, I'm Mary Schaffner. I'm the Executive Director of the District of Columbia International School, and I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Are there others with you, or
nope, just me?
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Yeah. Hi, Mary. Steve Bumbaugh. Can you explain sort of pre and post the IB requirements and the STAMP requirements? What are you changing them? What are you proposing to change them from and to?
Sure. The first IB goal was around that we would become an authorized world school, and we did become authorized world schools in the MYP, CP, and DP, so that's done. So in order to keep that
the spirit of who the school is, we decided to put in the goal to continue authorization when we were doing this update. And of course, the primary reason that we engaged in this effort was to adjust the STAMP goals, and that's the language goals. And the original goals were kind of confusing, and also we didn't really have any data about what we could do or what would happen. And so we really undertook a huge effort starting almost 3 years ago to look at all the data and create clear, better goals, and went through a whole process with our director of language learning, and then came up with these goals, which after we looked at, originally we were looking at kids who came from our elementary feeder schools and then kids who came from the lottery. But as we found, oftentimes the students entered into our member schools really late. So it was hard to kind of have goals that address both of those situations. So we decided to really consolidate the goal into one goal and to have all kids meet that.
Okay, thanks. I was just trying to ensure that the goals weren't being watered down.
No, we really just to be more clear and to have it, yes. It's very different. It's just a different approach. We kind of looked at both sides and tried to have one goal that was much cleaner and more achievable, and yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
Hi, this is Naomi. So really quickly, would love to hear how you all have been responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then are there any ways that the charter school board can help support you through this crisis?
Sure. DCI, we're really lucky. I don't know how else to put it, but all of our students have Chromebooks, and they've been using Chromebooks, since they enter at 6th grade. So a week before when we started to see all the shutdowns happening, our director of media and technology came up with a distance learning plan, and by looking at exemplars all over the country, and we trained our teachers really on sort of the next Tuesday, and we were planning kind of a slow rollout with students, but realized how much faster it was moving. So the Friday before we shut down, we were actually able to test and train all the students on how we were going to do distance learning. So then that we closed March 16th to give teachers some time to get ready. And then on the 17th, March 17th, we really started up and going with distance learning, really based on our original schedules. So students have time with the teacher and then time to do their work during their regular classroom periods, and things have kind of moved rather seamlessly. I'm super proud of our teachers. I'm proud of our students. I'm thankful for our parents, teachers, and students that they've really risen to the occasion. And we have our parents are an active, lively bunch, and are very easy to question us and give us feedback, and our feedback has been overwhelmingly supportive from our parent community of providing our kids stability during this crisis. We really appreciate all the support of the PCSB and the DME and OSSE through this process, as we know it's been super challenging, and we've really appreciated being kept in the loop through all the LEA meetings. So I think just continuing that support is what we would ask for.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you just explain to the board why the Chromebooks are incompatible with the assessment for the middle years program, and what kind of workarounds you explored but concluded wouldn't be effective? Because I know there are, literally hundreds of schools who offer that assessment.
Yeah, so we we were told when we were starting the school that it would work with the Chromebooks. And we planned for that. And we literally were going to go administer the assessments, the first assessments, and it didn't work. And I think we were the first school that they had ever come into contact with that had Chromebooks and fully deployed to 100% of our kids. So there was really no way for us, it didn't work on the Chromebooks. Other schools, I guess, use Macs and PCs, and they just haven't got it online yet, unfortunately. And so we were never able to do it.
I guess, is this the sort of thing that could be addressed if the school, bought 40 PCs and put them in a room just for the purposes of administering this assessment?
Well, when we have like over 200 kids in a class, to do those assessments in that kind of like multiple classes and multiple times just didn't really make any sense to us. And at the time when we decided not to do it, we didn't have the budget to buy a whole new platform and manage it. So it's just, we decided to wait until they kind of got their act together. And I hope and think now that they've kind of faced this year, they couldn't do any of the diploma or career program tests. I'm hoping that they'll actually go online sooner rather than later now. I hope.
So I guess the question is particularly acute because this is your only goal that relates to students with disabilities and English language learners. And so, the fact that you have Chromebooks instead of PCs is causing the elimination of this goal.
Yeah, and I think too, like what we also wanted to wait and see is that we would not be able, we don't have data around yet if they're going to get the career-related certificate or like what our IB, DP, and career-related certificates stats are going to be. So like STAMP, I would, and this is what I had said in the amendment, is that I would revisit it after we have data to, if we know what our whole population is, then we can set goals and look at how ELs and students with disabilities to make sure they're in a similar location. But there was no way for us to propose a goal when we didn't have any data, basically.
And then just the final question, does this Chromebook issue also relate to, does this mean that students can't test for the IB?
No, the diploma program, they can test for. We just don't have any data around it. They do take those tests. They write those tests and they get accommodations. We just don't even have we don't have the data behind how students will do. And so we can't really predict. Like our goal, our strategic planning goal is that 50% of all students get one of these things in 5 years. So this original goal was not, it just wasn't even, there was no data behind it. So we want to wait to see I would like to revisit this goal after we have data in like 2 or 3 years, but only around the career-related certificate and the IB diploma, not around the e-assessments because they're not possible right now. But we would revisit it.
I guess I would just say that we have many, many schools with many, many goals that were established before the school had a baseline of data. And this was a goal that, these were, and this goal and goals of other schools were established because those were the commitments that you were making to this board about what you were going to achieve academically and on which you were, approved to open. And so I guess I'm not like super persuaded by the idea that, we need to drop this goal because we don't know how our students are doing yet, and then we'll come back and set a goal once we see how they're doing, because that's not typically how we do things.
I completely understand that. I would say that we are one of the only schools in the country. There are 2 others. We're the only urban
charter school in the country that does this, and there are 2 other schools in the country that I've seen that do this IB for all, where every student takes IBDP classes, and that is the only data we have, and their schools do not match us at all. So there's just nothing similar to us. So like, I don't have that information, it would be a guess. So the suggestion was to remove it because we didn't have any way to predict it, where we did with the STAMP goals.
Okay, thank you.
This is Saba Beretta. I wanted to hear about your how you'll continue to track students with disabilities and English learners as you remove the goal that focuses on their performance. How will you ensure that they're still able to access an IB education?
Well, every student at DCI receives an IB education. So we believe, following the PMF, we're not tracking them and putting them in different classes and not allowing them into DP classes or into IB classes. Every student has access and attends those classes. So we believe, because our school is IB for all, that those, the PMF goals meet that requirement, and that we continue our IB authorization.
So just the rationale for removing that goal was, did you feel like it was duplicative? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I also don't think, because we knew the NYPE assessments didn't work and we couldn't use them, and because we had no data around the other goals, even how our students would do. And when we wrote the goals, I would say originally, there was no school for us to compare who was doing IB for all that was a public school without being a school within a school or without having entrance requirements. So we just have no, I've gone to a bunch of schools here in the US now, and I did at that time too, but it was so much smaller, where where their students are doing IB and where they're selected, sometimes 25 to 50% meet that goal, but they're still getting the amazing results that we want, which they're getting into college and persisting through college. So that's like I would say the real goal is that kids are getting into and persisting through college in their career and achieving that. So keeping our IB authorization should ensure that, and we're watching that with the PMF. Like we don't have another track for EL students and students in our special education program. So that's why I think it's duplicitous. And we don't have the markers yet to adequately create that goal.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions on DCI? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move to Goodwill Excel Center.
This is a public hearing to discuss Goodwill Excel Center Public Charter Schools' request to amend its goals and academic achievement expectations effective in school year 2019-20. The school wishes to remove its ACT goal and make minor adjustment to its business rules. Goodwill Excel, an alternative accountability framework, or AAF school, argues its ACT achievement goal exceeds expectations for an AAF school. The school also says removing the ACT goal will allow its instructors to focus on Goodwill Excel PCS's most critical academic goals. Per DC PCSB's Charter Amendments for Revised Goals and Academic Achievement Expectations policy, the board generally will not approve changes to a school's goals unless the school requests the amendment at least 1 year before its charter review. And this request is less than a year before its 5-year charter review, which will occur in school year 2020-21. However, since the school has submitted its charter amendment application, DC schools have closed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our staff is now proposing a COVID-19 impact policy, which if passed, means we will not collect data directly related to a public charter school's goals in school year, related to a public charter school's school year 2019-20 goals. If the board approves the COVID-19 impact policy, Goodwill Excel PCS's amendment proposal will no longer be relevant for school year 2019-20, but will be relevant for school years 2020-21 and beyond. Representatives from the school are present here to answer any questions you may have.
Hello. Good evening. This is Colleen Paletta. I am the Chief Mission Officer for the Goodwill Excel Center. Thank you for having us this evening. And I am joined by our school director, Chelsea Kirk, our president and CEO, Catherine Malloy, and also have on the line our board chair, Glenn Howard. I do have some introductory remarks to share and then would be happy to answer any questions you have. As many of you know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, you're good.
Okay, thanks, Eva. The Goodwill Excel Center is an alternative charter high school, and we opened in August of 2016 with a mission to serve individuals who had previously left school, wishing to return to earn their diploma and market valuable credentials in high growth industries. We are a competency-based alternative high school, predominantly serving individuals over the age of 18. We have an enrollment ceiling of 360, and now in our 4th year of operation, we have graduated close to 250 students. We are here tonight to discuss our request for a goals amendment and are very grateful for the new guidance that the PCSB recently released for alternative schools to create fair ways of measuring the quality of our programs. We support the focus on holding schools accountable to goals that best capture our program. And to that end, we have spent a great deal of time analyzing our current goals to determine the reliability for measuring the quality of our program. This self-reflection has resulted in our desire to keep all of our goals except for one. Specifically, we are recommending that we remove one achievement goal around the ACT while maintaining 3 achievement goals, which is more than the guidance recommends. Our school is committed to and will continue to support our students in preparing and taking the ACT if it is relevant to their post-secondary goals, but will not prioritize it for all students as we are today. Additionally, as mentioned, we are requesting very minor language changes in our business rules for our math and reading goals. We are here this evening to answer any questions that you might have on our request.
Hi, this is Naomi. I wanted to ask if there were any, aside from COVID, are there any other extenuating circumstances that that brought you to us to seek this amendment?
Any other extending situations? The primary reflection was really around our analysis that we continue to do over the past 4 years around measuring what matters and what is most relevant for our students. That really is the primary driver behind what we're trying to do behind what we're trying to do for the future.
Hi, it's Ricardo Ganjum. I wanted to just ask, beyond this adjustment, how is Goodwill responding to the COVID-19 pandemic? What are you seeing across your stakeholders, and is there anything more we can do to help?
Yes, absolutely. I'll start and would really welcome our school director, Chelsea, who's been really leading the ship in this effort. Like many others, we closed our doors on March 16th and quickly shifted to a distance learning model. Our student body is nearly 100% at risk. Many are parenting children who are in a lot of other charter schools and DCPS schools, and together are managing through navigating together, learning in this new virtual reality. First and foremost, we've been super focused on ensuring that our academic success coaching model is deeply engaging our students on a daily basis. Coaches reach out to students every single solitary day, as do teachers, as they're engaged in both synchronous and asynchronous learning. We are trying very hard, and I think being really successful at creating the culture that we have been able to develop and nurture within our school walls in this virtual world, whether that's Senior Week, Spirit Week, that is special virtual events to engage both students and families outside of their classes, yoga, special meetings with outside partners, really trying to maintain the relevance that makes our school so unique and so purpose-filled. We are committed to completing our school year. The Goodwill Excel Center operates 5 terms, and this school year intended to finish on July 9th, and we will continue to maintain our distance learning until July 9th. Currently, we are getting ready. We are doing virtual enrollment and we are doing virtual orientation, having done 1 of 4 sessions just a few days ago where we virtually oriented 26 new students and have 41 planned for virtual enrollment tomorrow. So we are seeing student engagement be strong despite the challenges many of our students are facing and are to continue into term 5. Chelsea, I'd love to just for you to add your thought as well.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Chelsea Kirk. I'm our school director. Just to echo what Colleen said, I think our biggest part of COVID-19 crisis handling has been making sure our students are checked in daily and also being really understanding and flexible that our students now have a whole new world of responsibilities to navigate. We used to see our students come to school as a way to escape or come into a safe space where they can focus on them. And now kind of everything that they're dealing with is in one location. So I think what Colleen mentioned about synchronous and asynchronous learning is really critical for our model. We have live Zoom classes every day, but then we also have the classes recorded. And then we also have different availabilities for opportunities for coaching hours, special education office hours, peer tutoring hours, student ambassador hours, and then also really broaden windows for when students can turn in work. And I think one thing that's really been helpful for us is that when the coronavirus shutdown happened, we were in the 2nd week of our term 4. So we had started term 4 and had a good culture brewing and building. And then all of a sudden this happened. So we were able to kind of foster in on the culture we were starting. And we enroll new students every term. So for a lot of students who we had just enrolled in term 4, this came in their first term with us. So really focusing in on them. And then one other thing that we've been doing to really hone in on student engagement is developing a student unengaged list that we then have staff who are focused on re-engaging them through different ways and then really broadening what engagement looks like so that we can have a touch point on where everyone is. And then the last thing I would just echo is that we really are focused on maintaining some sort of structure. So we know students might not be able to sign on for the synchronous learning every day, though we really are emphasizing like structure and schedule and really understanding flexibility and around this whole process and really using our academic success coaching model to really narrow in on the new barriers that are surfacing. And from that, the data is what support groups we need to offer. And so that's really where we are and what's working well. And I think for us, it's just an evolution and each week kind of saying what worked, what didn't work, going from there.
Thank you. This is Naomi, and I just wanted to circle back to the question that I posed because I don't really think I got to the crux of what I was asking.
Sure.
With the timeline of when we recommend you submit substantive changes to your charter, and you approaching that timeline, having missed the deadline, was there something beyond COVID? Was there something else that was pressing that you all had to do this now versus waiting until after your review?
I think initially what our intention was to put in the request immediately, knowing that we had done our analysis and had this as the expectation for where we wanted to go. Our initial request was for it to be and to be applied to this school year, which I think, as mentioned, is a moot point, given potentially anticipated board guidance that will be coming up soon, which would make our accountability this year look different, sort of in recognition from you all. And our vision for the future, if that might be what you're getting at, Naomi, is truly the vision that we had when we first opened the Goodwill Excel Center. And that is to be able to, at some point, expand our service and to continue to serve more district residents in providing what we believe is a model that has really served students who are looking for a different alternative education in the district. And at some point, our vision would be to move in that direction. Did I answer you, Naomi?
Yes, I'm processing. Yes. And
Okay.
I'll wait to hear if there are additional questions that kind of further flesh it out.
Hi, this is Lea Crusey. Can you share with us how many Goodwill graduates thus far have earned admission to UDC with a qualifying ACT score?
Certainly. So I would answer that question more in the context of this goal. So the goal is really that half of our graduates earn a composite ACT score of 16 or higher, which is required for entry into the flagship UDC. We currently, in the last school year 18-19, we had 16.5% of our students had earned that score with close to 100% participation rate against a required participation rate of 75%. Roughly about 16% of an additional group of individuals were probably 1 point away from reaching that composite score. In this school year, because this goal is relevant to our graduates, we had one graduation in January, and we were about 5 percentage points higher than we were last year and tracking at about 21% with similar scoring just below that. And I think it's also really important to note, as we think about our school, that many of our students, they come to us. We have students as young as 16, 17, and some as old as 72. We have learned from the data and from the work with our students over the past years that for many, the goal is moving on to careers and not necessarily an initial college focus. And so the data over the last couple of years shows that about 3/4 are more on a career-focused route, while about 1/4 are more on that college and additional post-secondary work. For those individuals that we continue to serve, who continue to have college as their post-secondary goal, as I mentioned in my introductory remarks, we're committed to and will continue to make sure that we are supporting them in both preparation and then in actually taking the ACT, if it is required for whatever institution that they're seeking to enter.
Any other questions on Goodwill? Okay, hearing none, thank you so much. And we will move to our new COVID-19 policy guidance.
Thank you.
You.
Erin?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Erin Kupferberg. I'm Senior Manager for the Financial and Academic Quality team. Tonight, we are holding a public hearing for the COVID-19 impact policy. We opened the policy on April 6, 2020 for public comment and will accept public comment through May 6th of 2020. This policy was created in response to the public health emergency, which resulted in all DC public charter schools physically closing and implementing distance learning programs. Staff aimed to create a policy that would give schools information on all areas that DC PCSB oversees, and to clarify how accountability would be impacted for school year 2019-20. In this policy, we are proposing to not collect or publish information for the 2019-20 Performance Management Framework or for charter goals. Further, reviews and renewals will not have academic information for school year 2019-20 in their reports. For schools with high stakes conditions, DC PCSB will not monitor targets for school year 2019-20 conditions. Instead, conditions from this school year will be applied to the school year 2020-21. The policy also outlines how staff will adjust other policies in our oversight, including attendance, discipline, notice of concerns, graduation requirements, the enrollment ceiling increase policy, the criteria for determining schools in good standing policy, transcript audits, qualitative site reviews, and the financial analysis report. To date, we have received one public comment asking what we will do in our financial monitoring oversight for fiscal year 2021, because this is when schools state they will see the impact of the financial decisions being made now. I am here with Rashida Young, Katie Damon, and Jessica Tagutin to answer your questions about this policy.
Thanks, Erin. Can you talk about, just per this policy, can you talk specifically about the differences in how schools up for review or renewal will be assessed in their review and renewal report?
Sure. So along with this policy, we are also opening tonight the PMF as goals policy. So schools in review renewal that do not have the PMF as their goals, we will assess 4 of the past 5 years in their review period. So if a school is coming up next year for review or renewal, we'll be able to have access to the prior 4 years of data, but 19-20 will be a blank with a footnote saying the data was not accessible. For schools that have the PMF as goals, we are proposing that as a missed year in PMF reporting will be included. It will be a blank year and not averaged in with the other years of data that when a school needs to meet an average for a PMF review or renewal.
Thank you. And will any of our policy or any of our guidance on the policy change if school closures extend longer than initially expected?
This policy is meant to capture 2019-20 only. If we do run into extenuating circumstances for 2020-21, we will definitely need to make adjustments or update this policy. But at this point, we really wanted to give schools, we wanted schools to know how they were being evaluated and held accountable in all different areas for the impacts that are going on right now, which is why we made the policy time bound to account for 2019-20.
Thank you for your work on this and your other team members.
Hi, it's Naomi. Wanted to know if you were able to get any school leader feedback on this policy as you were developing it.
Thank you. We were able to hold 3 sets of listening sessions when schools, the second week that schools were in distance learning and not able to access their school buildings. We held listening sessions with pre-K to 12 school leaders, adult education leaders, and alternative accountability school leaders. And we solicited feedback primarily on what were their thoughts at that moment, which was mid-March. So it was very early on in knowing how long we would be out of school or out of the buildings, but on what should PCSB take into consideration for accountability and any other oversight practices. So those were very informative meetings, I think attended by almost every LEA to give their input and feedback on not only what should we think about for this year, but also at that point, what we should be thinking about for next year. And those meetings were held prior to extending the out of school deadline beyond, I think, March at that point. So a lot changed rapidly after those listening sessions, but those were the basis for the foundation of this policy.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Erin, this is Lea Crusey. Do you happen to have any sense of how, are there any kind of national working groups on this, whether unique to charters or more broadly than that? I'm just curious how this stacks up to other kinds of school accountability considerations other state entities are considering.
So I've been working with a few different groups that touch the national landscape. I would first is our Aussie counterparts, the Office of the State Superintendent for Education. As I work with their contact in their accountability office, that person has connections with ESSA accountability across the 50 states, and learning very rapidly when schools started closing for the year or doing distance learning that the state assessments were being canceled for this year. ESSA accountability was being postponed or not being held accountable for this year. So those were what we were learning on the state level as we were writing our policy. And that mirrored exactly what we were seeing in DC when the superintendent did cancel the state assessments for this year. The other groups I am working with on the charter side is the National Charter Authorizing Group. Have been holding discussions weekly on different topics. Many of them are related to accountability. So finding out what other authorizers are doing in this space and how they're working with their schools and accountability practices. So those are the two primary groups. There's a few other national authorizing groups that I've also been touching base with to see how others are handling this time.
Thank you.
This is Jim Sandman. I don't have any questions. I think this is a very thoughtful and pragmatic policy. I think it's excellent work. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Other questions from the board on our COVID-19 policy? Okay, thanks so much, Erin and the team, for this great work.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to transition to our public meeting. So I need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I move to approve the April 29th, 2020 board meeting agenda.
Second.
Thank you. So we'll need to do a roll call vote. So starting with Jim Sandman.
Aye.
Steve Bumbaugh.
Aye.
Lea Crusey.
Aye.
Naomi Shelton.
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjum.
Aye.
I'm also an aye, and Rick voted by proxy aye. So unanimous approval of our April 29th, 2020 agenda. Hopefully we can move pretty quickly through our next few votes. As we talked about during the public hearing, we're going to vote tonight on the next step PCS additional facility request. Melody, do you want to unmute again?
Sure. As a reminder, we are asking you to vote on the Next Steps proposal to amend its charter agreement to operate an additional facility at 1420 Columbia Road. This additional space is 0.2 of a mile from the school's primary campus. And again, you heard from the school about the request earlier tonight.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on next step?
I move to approve the charter amendment of the Next Steps Public Charter School with the conditions as proposed by staff.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call again. Naomi Shelton?
Aye.
Steve Bumbaugh?
Aye.
Jim Sandman?
Aye.
Lea Crusey?
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjum?
Aye.
And I am also an aye, and Rick was as well. So unanimous approval of Next Steps charter amendment. Okay, next up, I believe that is actually all for our votes. Am I right, Scott?
Sorry, yes, Saba, just the consent calendar.
Yes, okay. Would any board member like to remove an item from the calendar for further discussion or state a recusal for the record? On the consent calendar? Okay, I need a motion to approve all items.
I move to approve all items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call again. Steve Bumbaugh,
Aye.
Jim Sandman,
Aye.
Lea Crusey,
Aye.
Naomi Shelton,
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjum.
Aye.
I am also an aye, and so is Rick. Next will be any new business. Okay. Lightning speed in our public meeting. Next, I will just need a motion.
I move to I move to adjourn the April 29, 2020 board meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. Roll call again. Jim Sandman.
Aye.
Lea Crusey.
Aye.
Naomi Shelton.
Aye.
Ricardo Ganjum.
Aye.
Steve Bumbaugh.
Aye.
And I and Rick are also an aye. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Thank
job,
you.
Papa.
Thanks all.
Night.
Good night.